I've watched that movie multiple times. Yes, I do. It's Robin Williams.
What's it called?
I can't remember that, but I've watched it multiple times.
It's a great movie.
It is.
Guys, welcome.
What is the name of it?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Sean and Zach Show. So we just got back from Burning Man. It sounds so cheesy and kind of, I don't know. I guess when I've heard people say like that, like, we want to tell you about Burning Man, it's like, oh, this is going to be lame. We're going to hear about all your stupid experiences and stuff like that. But we just got back from Burning Man and we want to tell you about it.
Yeah. No, I think that there was a lot of great takeaways from it. Like, honestly, like, it was a really, really dope experience.
Yeah. So 2 things. We wanted to talk about it because there's a lot of people that have never been. This was Saxony's first time. This was my second time. So we wanted to kind of answer some questions that we've had and talk about it, but really talk about some of the really cool spiritual, like, evolutionary experiences that we had, because there's a lot of misconceptions around Burning Man. Right?
I totally
We can call
agree.
this our Burning Man episode, our takeaway from Burning Man, whatever the hell we want to call it. We'll be those people. I don't really care, right? But Burning Man's a really, like I said, this is my second time. The first time I went was 15. Did we figure that out?
I
15.
don't remember.
It was 2015. My good friend Jesse Elder, and he was my coach at the time, had turned me on to it. I saw these pictures. I was like, what is this? You're like standing out in the desert, standing on these letters, and it looks really cool. He's like, oh, this is this thing called Burning Man. Great. It looks rad. And my first time I rented this RV, went out there by myself, had no idea what the fuck was going on, no idea what to do. They're like, going through as we're getting there, like, what camp are you with? I was like, I don't know. I brought an RV. Like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you're not with a camp. I said, no. And so I literally drove around the streets. So you were just in a little
refugee camp?
Yeah, it was like a refugee.
Nomads?
I was a nomad at Burning Man. I had no one there. No one welcomed me in, but they did. I ended up driving down the street, found these cool guys. I was like, hey, man, can I park here? Knowing what I know now about it, the way Burning Man's set up is you have these camps and this other cool stuff. And they're like, yeah, dude, totally. You can park here. And I'm sharing this for a reason because, there's a lot of, I just did a post about this. There's a lot of people in life that are just living by these unsubscribed rules that we never really signed up for, but yet we're vicariously living through because it's what we've been told is normal.
Sure.
Right? Now, when I went to Burning Man my first time, it was interesting because I was on my schedule, on my ritual, on my deal. I got up super early in the morning. I went and worked out in the playa. Like, I ran sprints, I did push-ups and all this other stuff. And it was funny because, like, I'd get on my bike and I'd ride around and there was nobody out. There was nothing going on. And I did this for 2 days. And my buddy Jesse was like, hey man, we're not going to go together, but if we see, like, he was kind of in this mystical, magical mode where, like, yeah, if we see each other,
the universe unites us,
then we'll see each other. And on the second day I was there, I was sitting on Esplanade, which is kind of the main road there. And I hear this like squeaky noise, like a squeaky bike, like, I turn around and lo and behold, it's Jesse. And I'm like, hey, and he's like, oh my God. And he like ghost ride. Remember how you used to ghost ride your bike and like kick it out and it like keeps going? He came over, gave me a big hug. Anyways, we end up chopping it up. And I was like, yo, dude, like, Burning Man's fucking whack. Like, this is dumb. Like, this whole thing is stupid. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I get up, I do my thing. Nobody's out. I'm in bed by like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. All these people jamming, partying all night long. I was like, this isn't my thing. And he's like, bro, you have all of these expectations. He's like, what did you think this was? I was like, I don't know. I just came because you told me about it. And he's like, you got to get rid of all of your thoughts and all of your expectations and all of your ego. And I was like, all right, here he is again with the hippy dippy shit, but I like Jesse, and so I'll trust him on this, right? And the reason I
did hire him as a coach.
Yeah, he was my coach at the time. So I was like, okay, I'll listen to you, coach, friend, And I spent a couple more days there at Burning Man, and it was amazing. And there's a lot of people that have, maybe you're one of those listening to this where you're like, oh, it's not Christian, it's satanic, it's da-da-da-da-da. It's
paganistic.
It's Sodom and Gomorrah. It's all this other shit.
It's an orgy.
And if you're that person, just spend a couple minutes with us and hear us. Like, if you like me and Sax, great. If you don't, fine. I mean, I assume if you're listening to this podcast, you kind of vibe with us, and that's great because I'm very much a Christian, man. I very much believe in God. I'm very much an advocate of Jesus and the Bible and talking and spirituality. And I can tell you that without question, Like God is at Burning Man. Like
Absolutely.
Jesus, the presence of divinity and the uniqueness of God and the connection of the soul is without question there at Burning Man. Period.
Absolutely.
End of story. This is coming from somebody that's been there twice. Sax will attest to
Absolutely.
this. And so I want to like squash kind of some of those rumors and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But it was really cool that my 1.0 of Burning Man, I ended up having a really, really, really interesting experience because I had an ego wrapped around it. I had my thought process. And that has served me really well in life the last 5, 6, 7 years, because how many times have I gone into a meeting or into a conversation or into an experience where my ego is so wrapped up of what it should be, what it should look like, how it should turn out, what they should say, what I should say, what it should be like, and you end up being completely fucking wrong because you're not present. You're not in the moment, right? I also wanted to share one other thing about 1.0, and then we'll get into our experience. A lot of people have asked me what my biggest takeaway was. I have had 2 different takeaways from Burning Man, but my takeaway from Burning Man 1.0, my first time going, was how judgmental I was. And you've heard this story. You've heard me share this story. Yep. But for those who haven't, share a quick story about this. When I hooked up with Jesse, he's like, dude, come kick it at our camp. Come hang out with us. I said, all right, cool. So I go riding with him over to his camp. I left my nomad camp. I left my RV of a solo guy and went to their camp. And as I go to their camp, there's a bunch of guys there that are all hanging out and having fun. And these guys are very gay. Now, for those of you that think that's judgmental, my father's gay. I have no problem with gay people.
My brother's gay.
Sax's brother's gay. I absolutely, if, 2 dudes want to love each other, God bless America. I don't really give a shit, right? Like, it's just, I don't really care. So I'm setting kind of the table, though, because of my ego and my judgment 1.0 versus 2.0, right? And so as I'm there, and in Burning Man, you don't really do any money. Everything's gifting.
Which is so rad.
It's super cool.
We'll get into
Very
that.
eclectic, right? There's these guys that are flamboyantly gay. And what I mean by that is like basically hardly any clothes on, G-string thong, high heels, sequences and glitter, basically whatever Saxony would wear is what these guys were wearing. And they were doing these Broadway shows. They had this big boombox and they were playing music and strutting their stuff and doing their thing. And this one dude comes over to me and hands me this Borat looking thong, the one that goes over your shoulders. And he thought it was the greatest thing. Here I am, this tattooed bearded guy, stuck out like a sore fucking thumb because I had like jeans and a t-shirt on. I was not into the Burning Man thing yet. I didn't really get it. And one of these guys ends up coming and sitting down, and Jesse's sitting down. I'm smoking a cigar, and he gives me a drink. He like makes me this cocktail, and we're sitting there talking. And I had the greatest conversation with this guy. And I have a lot of ego. I've always had a huge ego. I'm very judgmental. I've been very judgmental a lot of my life. I was raised this way. I mean, this is this. I was not raised in this free thinking environment and thought process. And I truly believe that if you get really honest with yourself, we're all very judgmental. I really believe that. And I think that the more radically free you get with yourself and honest you get with yourself, the more you acknowledge just how fucking judgmental you really are. And as I'm sitting there having this conversation, it was just a beautiful conversation. And we started talking about investing and money and finances and all this other stuff. Well, come to find out, these 3 dudes that were in this camp were all wildly successful bankers from New York. They were running hedge funds and venture capital companies. And I Googled them. I looked them up. And by day, they're wearing $5,000 suits in New York City, very successful dudes. And by night, they basically come to Burning Man once a year and they put on these insane shows, Broadway things, and they are just flamboyant and all over the place. And I remember taking away from that conversation and from Burning Man just how judgmental I really am in looking at people at face value, saying this person is this person is this, and really putting people in a box. And one of the really cool things that I love about Burning Man is you don't know if you're talking to a millionaire or a billionaire or a fucking dude who doesn't have two nickels to rub together. You're talking to these really cool, eclectic people, and you're bumping into them here and there. And it's like this, almost like this beehive of people just buzzing around.
It is
and
like
just,
a beehive.
right? And there's just this energy, and everybody's here. And some people are super mellow, and some people are super wound up, and some people are dancing, and some people are laughing, and some people are crying. And it's just this, almost like if you've seen a beehive, just this buzz, this energy, right? And I realized how judgmental I had been and how I still was in life. And it was one of the things that I strove after, Burning Man in 2015 was like, I wanted to strip away a lot of that judgment. And I think over the last couple of years, for the last couple of years, I've gotten into a place, and I know that this has helped me in my relationship with God. I know that this helped me in my pursuit of dating and ultimately getting married. Is really stripping away what I thought it should look like, smell like, feel like, be like, because of my own ego and because of my own judgments. And what's interesting about this is, as we posted our pictures on Instagram, whatever, on Burning Man, it was really fascinating the amount of feedback that came back from people.
A lot.
A ton. And not very, there wasn't a whole lot of neutral. It was either like, you're part of Satan's cult, or this is fucking rad. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. There was no neutral.
And it's very interesting observing that, because I remember, again, years ago, being at a state in my life where I was wildly critical and very instantly judgmental around people. And so that's kind of my 1.0 takeaway, which, as Sax and I got married, we had talked about it, and you had mentioned you had always wanted to go to Burning Man.
Burning Man has always been on my bucket list. It's just like, it has so many of the things that I love, like dressing up, being in nature, camping, community, lights, like art. I mean, art on a scale that I've never experienced. So yeah, it was definitely on my bucket list.
Running around half naked.
It's not the naked. It's just that I like.
You get to be free.
I like to be free.
Sax would have been at Woodstock had she been alive. She would have been front and center,
probably
with peace glasses and the whole thing.
Probably.
So, as we were, Sax's birthday was a couple weeks ago, as some of you know, and we went to Italy for her birthday in Switzerland. Had a really cool trip, and Sax made sure that she let me know that she was having a birthday month.
Oh, yes.
Even though her birthday was on the 16th, that we were going to celebrate her month, her birthday month. And so I said, great, let's go to Burning Man. And you were really excited. When did we decide to go?
I don't remember. It was very last minute. But I had been putting this out in the universe for years.
Yeah.
40th birthday, Burning Man. And I was like, it's happening.
It wasn't really last minute, because you spent the last 2 months planning your outfits.
I know, but we didn't have tickets. We didn't have an RV. By last minute, nothing was finalized till probably 2 weeks before, even that.
Because when I went before, I knew that you could get tickets.
Because this is just how Sean works.
It's number one, how I work. But number two, I knew that you could get tickets, and it wasn't a priority for me 2 months ago to go, search out tickets and stuff. So, and for those of you that are wondering, it's really easy to get tickets. Everybody tries to jump on and buy them right from the website, and you don't need to. You can buy them from eBay or resellers, literally.
However, getting a parking pass was some hot commodity.
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted my extra one, which I ended up selling.
Right. So we ended up getting the RV, doing the deal, road trip down. And what was fun for me, and I want you to kind of tell your preamble and your excitement going down and the whole thing. But what was really fun for me is, number one, the excitement and the anticipation, and me trying to explain to Sax what it was like. And we would look at all the pictures and who knows how many videos. And we went to what's Aubrey's wife's name? Vailana. Sax is a big fan of Vailana Marcus, Aubrey Marcus's wife. And she had these insane, flamboyant outfits that she would wear to Burning Man. So, of course, Sax found the designer,
Jessica Off Fashion,
whatever the designer was, and so Sax would go and look at all of these cool.
Well, I'd been doing this long before Burning Man.
Yeah,
this is just
this is Sax's style. But once we decided to go to Burning Man, she kind of ratcheted up a little bit and started getting serious about sequences and tops and bottoms and feathers and things and the whole thing. But what I got really excited about is knowing how the vibe was in the whole thing, and knowing that you got to be in this space where, number one, you didn't really know what it was like or see, but that you were going to get to experience this.
And I don't go into things with a lot of expectations. Like my girlfriend who went with us, she had researched camps, she knew all of this information. And I kind of like going in blind to things because I want to discover it, if that makes sense. Which a lot of times it nips me in the butt because I'm not prepared. Like apparently you can't moop is a thing and they don't like feathers. Well, somebody didn't get the memo, but we worked around it.
We didn't research that much about the new rules
of
Burning Man.
Yeah, but like some people really like they get to know what they're getting into, and I'm not that person. Like I liked, for the most part, I knew enough, but not enough to like have any preconceived real idea.
Right.
Which was great, and I would recommend doing that, but do be prepared.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about this and that is really poignant in our life is that's really indicative of how we are with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And I think people, if you're listening to this and wanting to get, kind of a nugget from it, how many times do you get invited to a church and you have this preconceived notion of this church or this thing and you're like, oh, I don't know that I want to go. Or you get invited to an event, or you get invited to a concert, or you get invited to somebody's house, and you just have this thought process, which you've never been there, right? You've never been to this event. You've never been to this concert. You've never been to this church. And yet somehow we have this thing wrapped around in our brain of what it is, or I've heard these things, or maybe these things. That's that ego. That's where I was, Burning Man 1.0. And that's where I think a lot of those things have been stripped away from me, where you and I are obviously different in that regard. You're just like, fuck it, let's go. I don't really give a shit. And I'm like, well, I heard that there's a bunch of weirdos there and da-da-da. And you're obviously a lot further down that rabbit hole than I
We were raised very differently. That probably also plays a huge difference.
We were. But yeah, so talk about that, like on kind of the thought process going and what.
Yeah, to me, I knew that it was a very it's not only this a great adventure, like with nature, but it's also a great adventure with discovery of all the different types of people that are there. Mm-hmm. And then all of there's a spiritual element to it. And then there's this art element to it. And there was all these things. And I knew, there are these things that you hear like, oh, there's, it's very liberal, or it's very, it's very dark because everyone's on drugs, or, oh, it's like all about sex, which all of those things exist there, but that's not what Burning Man is. Now, if you want to find those things, you'll find them.
Sure. You made a good point, though. It's like Vegas.
I sat with it because I was getting a lot of feedback, right? And I was like, hey, I want to address this in the best way that most people could understand. And I was like, what? It is like Vegas. Now, I would rather go to Burning Man a million times over than Vegas. I am not a Vegas person.
Sure.
However,
say what you
Vegas
said.
Is a great analogy because you can go to Vegas for the slime and the filth and the strip clubs and the prostitutes and the drugs. You can go to Vegas just for that. And
it's all right there. It's all there.
It's all there, right? Or you can go to Vegas like me, and I like to go see shows. I like to eat all the food. I like to shop. I like to see the lights. And then I like to go to bed.
Right.
I don't like to stay up late and do things of the night, right? So it's similar. Like my Burning Man experience was so very pure, so very jovial and loving, and so full of wonder. Like there was no darkness in my experience.
Right.
Now, I drove by the orgy dome on my bicycle. I saw it. Yeah. And it was like, hee hee hee, that's funny.
Yeah.
But I don't go in the door. I don't want to go there, but I see it. It exists. Mm-hmm. Just like I can see the Spearmint Rhino billboard and the whatever one as I'm going through Vegas. It's the same thing.
Right. You could be standing on, how many times, guys, have you been to Las Vegas and been watching the fountains at the Bellagio, and you turn around and there's a truck with a billboard driving right behind you. Honestly, with a bunch of ass and
Vegas is probably worse because people are trying to sit and give you flyers.
Yeah.
Nobody's giving you flyers of nudie patootie. However, there's Harold.
Yeah. But I wanted you to say that because it's a great analogy. And if you're thinking about that, and you're wondering, oh, what about this? It's very indicative of it. It's the same thing. You're going to find, and this is just life, period. You'll find darkness wherever you go if you want. You'll find light wherever you go if you want. Like, you're going to find whatever you want. Are there people at Burning Man that are very liberal? Yes. Are there conservatives there? Yes. Are there people flying rainbow flags there? Yes. Are there people flying American flags there? Yes. Are there people doing drugs there? Yes. Are there people that are sober there? Yes. Like, it's all across the board, but it's no different than Vegas. It's no different than Chicago or New York or LA or Miami or anywhere.
Yeah. One of the cool experiences to me too is, so it's an extremely well organized event, which it has to be. There's 80,000 people in the middle of a desert. So I will hand it to them. It is wickedly, wildly organized to the point where, like, it's a little ridiculous getting in the door. If you go 10 miles an hour instead of 5, they put a clown puts a cone on your car and makes you sit there and figure out why.
So we were
that
super
happened
excited.
to us. But hold on.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at is there's rangers everywhere, right? It's federal land. And so the rangers are driving around and they've got their trucks and they're doing their 5 miles an hour and they're, like, they were some of the most They were so stoked to be there.
Right.
Like, they were happy when we talked to multiple rangers. Yeah, the police rangers, they were so rad.
Yeah.
And it's like the one guy got out of his truck and wanted a picture of my costume, and he was like, "This is fun working this. Like, what a trip. Like, I'm down for this. This is hilarious. Like, I am fully entertained."
Yeah.
And so it's not like it's just some extreme crazy fest. Like, there's a wild organization and there's great, there's people, they have a really cool way of even handling things that do happen. Like, the Stan guy explained it to me. But moral of the story is like, it's like America. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of everything there, right?
That's one of the things that I really like about it is it's so eclectic.
Mm-hmm.
There are people there that are there to party. There's people there that are there to be spiritual. There's people that are there to just observe, and everything in between, Yeah. Like the temple, for example. Well, tell everybody about the cone and like getting there, because I want to hear you explain.
So we drove in super late. We arrived at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Which I highly recommend showing up late
that
and in the middle of the night.
Have to say, like you
show
having
up
been twice,
2 days late.
Go the day after
or 2 days
that it starts, and leave a day before or 2 days before, because there's 77,000 people that literally all converge at one time and all exodus at one time. So if you want to avoid waiting in your car for 12, 13, 14, 15 hours, which you will. Go the day after. Normal. Yeah. Go the day after and then leave the day before. Mm-hmm. Our 2 cents on it. Or stay the entire time and experience sitting in your car, but that's just not my job.
No. We don't like traffic.
So we went 2 days after it started, 2.5 days after it started.
Yeah, so we rolled in the middle of the night, and we got up to, you go through gate check after gate check after gate check, because they want to make sure everything's legit, right? And I can't even remember all the different stations. We only got in trouble at 2 of them. Mm-hmm. I think
2 out of the 3.
2 out of 3.
We were in trouble before we even got there, because you get so excited and you're driving and like they have a 5 mile an hour speed limit, but when you're doing 15 miles an hour, to me feels like 5.
Yeah, and they have good reasoning for it. It's not to micromanage you. It's because when you're out in the middle of this massive desert with all these people and you're driving, like, it's dark. Like, if you could later easily run someone over, right. And that is why everyone has all the little lights on their bicycles. It's not because it's a rave. It's because it's literally, you have to have lights on your bike, because you can get hit.
Yeah.
Because you're in the middle of nowhere. So we ended up getting a cone on the hood of our car. Sean was thrilled. So was Frank. You guys were just elated that this guy with a clown nose puts it on there, and he would not say why. He's just like, I'm going to put this here, and you can. He's like, I'm gonna let you think about it.
Put this cone on your car? We're like, no. And he's like, all right, I'll let you think about it. I'll be back in 5 minutes. And we're like, okay. And I had been before, and so I know that like when you go in, when you're pulling into Burning Man, there's a lot of antics. There's people that are already dressed up. They're funny. And now, granted, you got to understand, these are like gate checkers that are checking in 75,000 people. Yeah. So they're seeing and hearing every fucking thing you could ever imagine, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were like at the tail end of everybody that had shown up there.
Yeah.
So I think they had just been a little bit beaten down, worn down, like didn't really like want to put up with any shit. So the guy comes back a couple minutes later. And he was funny because he was dragging he had
a toy
he
skeleton.
had a toy skeleton that was like tied onto his jacket.
I still don't quite understand that.
It was just odd. And he's like, so did you guys think about it? We're like, yeah. And he's like, so what'd you come up with? We're like, you want to see our costumes or our outfits? And he's like, nope, try again. I'll be back.
He's like,
in 5
check
minutes.
your rear view mirror. Or no, check in your side mirrors. And I was like, what can you see?
Yeah. It was almost like a quiz. Like, is this our Burning Man quiz?
Yeah.
Long story short, we were speeding. And so he wanted to make sure that we knew that we needed to slow down.
And he was very great about explaining why after irritating you and Frank
it was
so much.
We end up going in. We go through the thing. We get everything that we need to, our tickets and whatever. And what's really cool is it's set up, the whole festival, the whole deal is set up as like a horseshoe shape. And you guys can all research this and look it up and whatever else, but it's super easy to get around. Like it's all letters and numbers. So it's set up like a clock. Like the entire experience is like 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And you're staying on a street. So like our street was 7 and H. So we're at 7 o'clock and H, which is like unbelievably easy to find.
It really is.
We end up driving there. And as we pull in like down the street, our buddy comes.
Baby, you missed a whole step.
Oh, what did I miss?
The gal when we had all of our contraband.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought
Saxony still isn't over that one. So
yeah,
so we pull up to the next gate.
Yeah.
And she's checking
they
us in.
They inspect all your RVs, which I think is cool. Cause
they don't want you to smuggle in extra people. They want to like
bombs or whatever.
They check you for bombs. They like they're doing their due diligence. However, Saxony didn't get the memo that feathers, sequins, glitter, and something else are literally not allowed.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I'm decked out as kind of per normal.
She's got her feather earrings on. She's got a feathered waistband thing that she already has. She's sequenced and glittered up the wazoo. So I get out with this lady, and you have to open up all the doors and stuff, and they just check your RV to, again, make sure you're not bringing people in or something dangerous. Which I think is fine. Yeah. And so we're walking around, and she's like, so do you guys have any, of this or that or the other? I said, no. She's like, what about any feathers or sequences? And I was like, oh, yeah. And now I didn't know.
We thought she was being sarcastic.
I thought she was being sarcastic. So she's like, do you have any feathers or sequins or glitter? And I'm like, have you seen my wife? I was like, we brought all the feathers and all of the sequins. And she kind of stops and looks at me, and she's like, for real? And I'm like, yeah, look at my wife. And then all of a sudden, like, as I said that, I realized, oh, shit, she's being for real. And I was like, is that a problem? And she's like, yeah, that's a big problem. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, you can't have feathers and you can't have sequins out here. And I was like, oh. And so then she opens
Then we're like, stash.
So she opens up the back door of the RV. And I had bought these, like, LED feathered halo things. They were like little like crowns.
Oh, I forgot those.
Did you? Yeah, we had to give them away. We threw them in the trash. We had to throw those ones away. You didn't see that part. So we went to Amazon. I bought every damn LED.
We didn't throw away
thing.
the Veda Soul feathers, just the Amazon
I
ones.
bought every damn LED thing that you could buy on Amazon for the bikes and for everything else. So we had these big feather LED crowns that we had to throw away, unfortunately.
It's okay.
And it was just kind of funny because I went over to Sax and she had all of her Veda Soul things. I'm like, hey, put your Veda Soul earrings away. You can't have them here. Well, I don't throw them in the trash, but you got to put them away.
Well, and then I'm like, what do they want me to dress like a damn Wookiee out here in the desert?
Yeah, she's like,
I'm not dressing like a Wookiee. I came here to be a snow owl.
Which she really did. And
I still was a snow
really
owl.
Funny. So we ended up making it through that. Had to throw away some of our shit, which was like, whatever, it is what it is. So just a bit of information. If you're going to go, make sure you read the rules. And
can I just interject a little magical moment that happened at Burning Man? This is way forward from this moment. Well, we're out on the playa in the middle of the night and we're riding bikes, and I'm sober, mind you, in this conversation. I'm riding my bike. And we're way out far away from where it's really dark. And all of a sudden, as I'm pedaling, I see this little dark bird, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a hummingbird. And I'm thinking, what are you doing out here? Like, a hummingbird should not be out in the middle of the desert, but the lights kind of mess with them a little bit, so that made me sad. But I'm like, what are you doing out here? And then I was like, did you come to tell me that you wore your feathers too and it's okay because they're from nature? And this hummingbird flew up and like touched my cheek and then was bounced. And I was like, that actually happened. And I'm not like, I'm like sober. That actually happened. That was it was so cool to me.
Party and get all hammered. And we're riding our bikes, and Sax is like, "Oh!" She starts yelling, "Oh!" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "There's a hummingbird," and I'm like, "Are you really like sober? Or are you on drugs right now? Because there's no hummingbirds out in the desert." Swear to God, I turned and I looked over, and there's a hummingbird right next to her face, and I was like,
"Which I love."
Fuck! It was just the oddest thing ever.
I have a great connection with hummingbirds and birds in general, but hummingbirds have great animal totems. But it was just this moment, and I'm like, fist bump.
Yeah,
we're rocking our feathers. But yeah, continue on.
Now, yeah. So, anyways, we get to we end up finding our camp, and it's like 2:30 in the morning, and my good friend Garrett comes out, and he's like, I just happened to be stopped at our little intersection. And these are like huge, like square blocks. And so I'm trying to find where they are. He comes walking up. Hey, man. We go running over, give him a big hug.
Yeah.
We end up pulling our RV in. And because it was so late, we just decided, hey, let's just go for a ride. Garrett came out with us, and we just cruised around.
He was really great. He's like, I want to be there for you.
Yeah.
Your first time going out on the playa.
My buddy Garrett Gunderson is like a rock star. You guys, if you don't know who he is, look him up. He's a phenomenally successful, brilliant guy.
It's all over YouTube.
He's all over YouTube. He's been very successful in the financial world. Like, that's what's cool about Burning Man, is like,
Garrett Gunderson.
Don't know.
I don't know if I talked over you. Sorry.
Yeah, Garrett Gunderson. He's written, I don't even know how many books. New York Times bestselling
Great guy.
book.
Great
he
family.
is a comedian, financial guy, very successful. Runs multiple businesses, and just the nicest one of my close friends. And he jumps on the bike with us, and it was one of those things where like we're like little kids. We got to Disneyland, and we're like, we'll unpack later. Let's go on the rides. You know what I mean? So we all jumped on our bikes, and we went with our dear friends Frank and Chanel, and it was both of their first time, and it was just like Burning Man is just. It's hard to describe.
I don't know how to.
But imagine at night, and what's interesting is Burning Man really comes alive at night. And if you go, like my first time, I had this expectation of this 24/7 thing, and it's kind of, I don't want to say dead during the day, but from basically the time the sun comes up until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, that's when everybody's sleeping and chilling, right? The second part of the day, the second half of the day, things start to kind of come alive. But then at night, it's just game on. Like, everybody goes out at night. And so you have this massive desert, which is really kind of barren during the day. There aren't very many people there.
4,000 acres.
So
Think of how big that is.
So truly wrap your head around this for a second. When you have, 75,000 people that are all kind of hybrid, it's really like a beehive.
It is like a beehive.
You have 75,000 people hibernating and sleeping, from sun up until about noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. But then imagine all of these people coming out at night, and all of them are either on their little art car or their bikes or segways or walking or whatever. And there's really only one road. It's called Esplanade, which is like the main road, which kind of rings the desert. And then there's obviously all the streets, but you just have miles of desert, and everybody is just going where they're going. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. People are going to the man. People are going to the temple. There's literally hundreds of art exhibits. What was it? Was there 280 something?
I thought there was.
It was like, I think it was like a couple hundred.
And they're everything from very small to just grandiose.
And really, there's these art exhibits and art pieces that are spread over miles. And there's a map that they give you, and they're all named, and so you have no idea what they are unless you like know the artist or you follow the people or whatever. And so what we would do is we just would get on our bike and we would just ride. And you ride this way, and then you ride this way, and you would just ride your bike on this it's just really flat, cool, surface. We got our beach cruisers, and we're just rolling around, and you'd see this
your
cool
basket.
thing.
You got all your things in it.
Yeah, you got your water and your things, and we put LED lights all over our bikes, and it's just really cool. Like it sounds weird to a lot of people, but it's very, very innocent, and it's very there's not a lot of. One of the things I really truly enjoy about Burning Man is there's really not a lot of ego there. You don't know who you're talking to, whatever. Everybody is doing their own damn thing. And I told Frank when we went out there, because Frank was kind of like me, year one. He's like, Frank's this big buff guy and he lifts weights and he's man's man kind of a thing. Not into like, you don't see me wearing sequins or sparkles or whatever. Where I told Frank, I'm like, yo, if you're just wearing jeans and a t-shirt out here, you're the one who actually stands out. Like you kind of have to dress up.
So put on your disco jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But here's what's cool about that. There's a lot of people that talk a lot of shit, right? Like, oh, you just get out there and whatever. The real truth is, I think most human beings, you know, some people, when you get to Halloween, you're just like a Scrooge and you're like, whatever, man, just give me a fucking wig and I'll throw a wig on and I'll just hand out candy to the kids.
Some of us go
and then there's some people like my wife,
sparkly Skittle unicorns,
who just goes over the top, right? Now, look, I would consider myself a man's man. I like being in the woods. I like man shit. I like lifting weights and, you know, let's put the freaking box on me for 2 seconds. And I drive a truck and I got a ranch and I shoot guns and I wear cowboy boots and jeans and man's man. But dude, like I put on these white pants and these fucking like Mad Max boots and took my shirt off and I'm jacked and I'm rolling around with my little scarf on and these goggles and a hat and like I felt like I was in Mad Max.
You looked like you were in Mad Max.
And like fellas, like for 2 seconds.
That's your cool costume. That's your cool costume.
Yeah, for me that was my jam. Yeah. I wasn't wearing a thong and I wasn't like having my ding dong whipping around and like having sparkles and bedazzled.
Most guys aren't.
Which isn't. I'm not judging that. If that's your jam, that's your jam. But fellas, I want you to think about this because there's a lot of like. I got a lot of blue collar friends who are like men's men, whatever.
Sure.
How many times have you watched Mad Max though, and you're like, yo, that shit's dope? Like, how many times, fellas, have all my guy friends who are men's men, have you been like rolling with your guns and your shit, and you see Mad Max, and you're like wanting the zombie apocalypse to happen? Well, dude, imagine if you could actually go to where the zombie apocalypse is happening, but you're not being eaten by zombies, you're not being shot at by zombies, but you get to just be fucking Mad Max and be the savage, crazy, like inquisitive creature that you want to be in that story. To me, that's cool as shit.
Yeah.
To me, it's like it was a very masculine thing, you know what I mean, to be in that space because I felt like I was in Mad Max.
Mm-hmm. What I love about it is, I don't believe that there's a person on the planet that if they could live fully in their little inner child just for a moment, that they wouldn't choose that. Like,
sure.
I was sharing with Sean, like when I was a child, I had this little orange Huffy bike and it was my horse that I named Diamond. And I would ride my bike. I mean, I was an 80s kid, early 90s, you know, like, so I just like, my bike was everything to me. And so it's like, I was like, it brings you back when you ride your bike around for days on end. Like you just can't help it. Like you fall back into that play of that joyful child that just like, I'm riding my horse through the desert. And maybe I'm a really extreme case of this because I operate like this most of the time. So this was like full send.
Sex is an anomaly.
Like I love being in those childlike moments, and because they're so full of joy. And it was like looking at you guys and like seeing our bikes all lit up with LED lights, which our kids would do today. Like it's like you get that, it's like we were just given that opportunity in time to like be that joyful child that we all still are. We just, a lot of times we bog ourselves down with all this adulting and this supposed growing up thing that I've heard a thing or two about that I know nothing about. You know, it's like we get to be those kids again. And that was like, I said it like 10 million times. I'm like, this is that moment.
Yeah, this is the coolest thing. And I think it's cool to experience it, but also to talk about it because, you know, I know a lot of you guys listen to our podcast, maybe because we're entertaining or we sometimes drop nuggets or you like how we operate, whatever. But like, you know, the older I get, the more free I'm becoming. And Burning Man this year was really cool for me because it's what I wanted it to be. It's what I made it to be. You know what I mean? And that's what's cool about it is if you're going for the first time, it's odd. It's weird. It's like sensory overload. You're just seeing things that don't make sense. You're looking at these art things and you're like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden there's some random naked dude that just rides by on a bike and you're like, well, okay.
Yeah, it's not a place for children, by the way.
No, I wouldn't bring kids there. I mean, there are people that are total exhibitionists, straight up.
I would not bring.
There's men and women, very few, like a
children.
very, very, very small percentage, like not even like 1%. There's a like
that are naked.
Yeah,
very few.
Very few.
Very few.
But there are people that are naked and you're just rolling along, and all of a sudden some chick rides by and she's got a hat on and goggles, and that's it. And you're like, wow. And it's probably not comfortable riding that bike, but whatever.
There's very few of them. And there's also like, it's not a place for kids. This is an adult's thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's not odd anyway, but I share that just because like when you're talking about being that kid, you know, like I really believe that what we're supposed to be doing, maybe meant to be doing, however you want to say it, in life is really stripping away a lot of the rules and the ego and the things that we think we're supposed to be doing and how it's supposed to be. And they said this and they said that, and my mom and dad and the church and everything else. And it's kind of like we're literally programmed to live in this one-dimensional experience, when the truth of the matter is we're living in an infinite dimensional reality. We're literally living in a world where there are billions of people with such dramatically diverse cultures and foods and ways of being and ideologies and thought processes. And yet here we are eating at the same place, talking to the same people, doing the same shit, going to the same vacation destination for 40 fucking years. Yeah. And then we die. And like Burning Man to me it's almost like it's not an escape from anything. It's an entrance into something bigger.
That's a great way to put that.
It's not, I don't go to Burning Man or look at Burning Man like, oh, I got to escape my reality because my reality is dope as fuck. I go to almost enhance my experience, to open my mind up even more. And somebody asked me what one of my biggest takeaways was. And my 1.0, the first time I went, I wore jeans and a t-shirt because I didn't want to be that guy. I wasn't comfortable there. Truly, I had an ego, and I was like, I'm not going to dress up like some fucking freak. And this time, I was on Amazon like looking at the weirdest shit and Mad Max. I was Googling Mad Max outfits, and I was like, yo, I want to wear some cool-ass fucking boots and I'm like going to have a black outfit and a white outfit. And it was cool, like, but I felt good there. I felt comfortable there. I felt confident there. You know what I mean? And I really think it's important for people to understand that whether it's Burning Man or whatever, right? We're not advocates for, or not, I shouldn't say advocates, but like ambassadors for it. No. I don't have a discount code. I don't have a coupon code.
We're just sharing our experience. I'm not telling you
where to go to some secret website. We're just two people that went and have been, and like we fucking dug it. And it was a huge experience for us and a very big, you know, evolutionary reality for us. And it opened up kind of another portal, and it opened up another door. And I say that just because I truly believe that if you're listening to this and you're living in a one-dimensional world, what would it look like if you could step into a two-dimensional world and then a three-dimensional world and then really encapsulate an infinite reality, you know? And that's something that's something that I feel for myself, not just physically, but spiritually. Like my spiritual evolution has grown so much in the sense that this is what it's supposed to look like and feel like and be like, because this is where I've been for 40 years. And then all of a sudden you start just experiencing more. Now, some people go, well, that's the devil and that's this and that's that. No, bullshit. No. That's evolution, because I'm personally more connected to God than I've ever been in my entire life. My personal relationship with deity is as deep and connected and rich and beautiful and powerful as it's ever been in my entire life. And so for somebody to tell me that's the devil, I disagree, because I'm the one experiencing it. I'm the one, you know, here in this reality. And it's the same thing with Burning Man. When you're there, it's so freeing. And it's like, you really are like a little kid. Like when you're a little kid, man, there aren't judgments. Remember Halloween when we dressed up as kids? You didn't judge the kid and go, oh, you look like a nerd or this. Everybody had these cool costumes and this cool experiences. And you're like, oh shit. Like imagine being that as a 40-year-old or a 45-year-old, going back to that beauty and simplicity, that innocence, that egolessness state.
And there's lots of opportunities for this. Burning Man is not the only thing. Like there are so many of these type of events that are smaller scale. I don't think there's a larger scale, but you know, it's like there's so many of these type of things like you can start to just immerse yourself in, or just dip your toe in. Like it's not, we're not at, like we said, we're not trying to raise anything for Burning Man, but there are like, it's just, this is what we just did. It's hot on our minds.
We literally got
but there's so many
48 hours ago.
There's so many of things you can experience like this, right? And but yeah, I absolutely what?
No, go ahead.
I just absolutely loved it so much.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about too the temple that was there.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have said, again, and I say a lot of people, and hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about. I mean, I share a lot on social media and have a lot of feedback on social media. And so I get to look at kind of a lot of people are saying this or a lot of people are saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's just a microcosm of what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people had mentioned about, this thing being, satanic or this or that or whatever.
Or it's full of pagan rituals.
Yeah, pagan rituals. And guys, look, man, the third eye, right? The all-seeing eye. We could debate that all day long. People say it's satanic and it's the Illuminati. If you have half of a brain, if you have a tenth of a brain, if you have a sliver of a brain, and you actually look up, and I'm just using this as an example for all of you that are hell-bent on pagan rituals and all the satanic Illuminati shit, the all-seeing eye existed long before it was on U.S. currency, long before Jay-Z and everybody else was lumped into this Illuminati shit. It existed long before the Freemasons. It existed long before any church. So guys, my 2 cents in this, do your fucking homework. Like, don't sound like a moron, because you do sound like a moron when you're like, oh, it's the sign. Like we have a third eye painted on our wall in our basement, and when I shared a picture of it, people are like, oh my God, you're part of the Illuminati. I'm like, what the fuck are you even talking about? So point is like when you're taking what other people are saying from their own stupidity, I strongly suggest you guys look this shit up. People talk about how it's designed and burning man. Oh, the burning and this, and it represents and it means. Fuck all that shit, dude. Like, come up, like, do your research. Anyways, back to the temple.
So the temple, which what's beautiful about it is it's not non-denominational. It's not supposed to be this ritualistic temple that you go in. What was so beautiful is you walk in and there's this stillness.
Yes. Very reverent.
Very reverent. And it's so beautiful because so not only is it constructed beautifully, like it has these roses cut out of wood, of the wood.
Every year it's different.
And this year it was so, I don't even know how to explain it. It was so beautiful. And it just goes in, and people they'll write love letters to people they lost. There's pictures of people, like there's a few ones that I saw of they lost people to cancer, and there's all these, and it's basically like, if you know anything about how, like, say, people do when they write things that they want to release, right? And then they burn them. This is like a full moon ceremony, which if you're going to say that's satanic, that's not.
People do this all the time.
This
happens in men's camps, women's camps, men's experiences,
but this
women's
is like
experiences.
So just think of it, it's that same concept on a really big scale, okay? So people are in there and they're writing like beautiful, I mean, it's like, what do you call that when they...
Memorialized.
It's like a memorial for love. Like it's like everywhere I looked. And so we just sat in there and walked around, and you're just kind of reading, like you're reading these testimonies of love.
Thousands of them.
Of love and release from, like, I mean, yes.
Pictures, posters, kids' medals. There was, like, I saw a medal from a veteran from a note written by the daughter, and one of his medals from war, it was her dad who passed away. And like there was this long letter written on the temple. And it was like, holy shit. And you're reading these things, and there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
Picture after picture after picture. And not just all memorials of death, but life too. People writing like, I'm making these declarations, I'm changing. And what you said earlier is huge. Like, it's not just a full moon ritual, but how many of you have ever been to some sort of ceremony or thing where you write your thing down that you want to release and you want to burn, and you put it into a fire? And shit, I remember doing this like years ago in scouts, when you wrote some shit down and like you put it into the fire to release it and to burn it. Yeah. It's not weird in any way. It's shit. Practically everybody listening to this knows exactly what we're talking about.
And everybody who participates in this, they all know that the temple will burn in the end. And it's not, it's like, I think people hear, oh, burn a temple, and that's like, oh,
yeah,
it's like,
satanic.
oh, but it's not. That's the whole like beauty of bringing together all of this love, all of these things to be released, all of this, what serves that individual, knowing it's going to be burned, put into,
the ethos the universe.
and that releases that. It's very symbolic of the great release, right? And so that's what this temple, its whole intention wholeheartedly was, from the moment it started being constructed, it was its only purpose, right? interestingly enough, we're in there and I'm just like being me. I'm quite full of joy. I'm a little bit too loud. I'm very enthusiastic. And I got shushed even because the guy was like, shh, like,
It's
I was
very,
like, oh,
it's very, very spiritual.
yeah.
There's an energy around it. And this is where a lot of people are like, oh, God's not there, yada, yada, without question, incorrect.
Lots of praying going on in there.
There are people in there that you see are just praying. They're in thought. They're meditating. There are people that are hugging. There's people that are, in joy. There's people that are smiling as they're walking around. And it's very much to me like the 9/11 memorial.
Yeah.
I thought about that as I was there. I was like, because my cousin was killed on 9/11, and the 9/11 memorial is very somber. It's very spiritual. It's very it's got that energy and that vibe.
It evokes a lot of emotion.
Yeah,
and you could just in that connection of knowing like what brought someone to bring that there to then relieve them or to like release that. Yeah.
And I wanted to share that just because a lot of people think that you're just going out here and it's just sex and drugs and partying and loud music and the whole thing. And in the middle of this entire eclectic experience, there is literally a sacred house that's been built. And I'll say that all day long. There is no denomination to it. It's not Mormon or Catholic or Baptist or Protestant or Lutheran. It's simply and then what I really love about it, it was very symbolic for me this time, realizing the transcendence of the denominations that we have. There was none of that there. And that's really been my evolution, my spiritual evolution over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years is truly disconnecting from a specific dogma, a specific church, a specific way of being, and not saying one's right or one's wrong or one's good or one's bad, but really having a melting pot of God, a melting pot of spirit, a melting pot of
God is in all things.
Yeah, and it's a really cool experience to be able to be out there in the playa riding around and having fun and doing your thing, to then come upon this spectacular edifice. Because if you think about it, most every church has one of those. The Catholics have these cathedrals. The Mormons have these temples. The Baptists, you whether you built a big cathedral or you built a big chapel or you built a big whatever, most churches have structures that are symbolically representative of their denomination. And it's a really interesting thought process to have this temple with all of these other people that are probably every denomination you could imagine. Atheists, there's probably people that don't believe in God. There's people that do believe in God. There's probably Mormons, Catholic, Baptist, Protestant, Lutherans that all happen upon this one structure and this one location and this one thing, and they all find reverence there. They all find stillness there. They all find calmness there. And Sax wasn't going crazy or loco. She was just being the little kid, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And you were looking at, like,
it was because it was a bug. Remember the cute little bug?
Yeah.
He looked like the bug from WALL-E. He had the really long antennas.
Yeah. And Sax was excited.
I was like,
about
oh my
bug.
goodness.
And when Sax sees bugs, she goes a little fucking crazy and whatever. And somebody's like, shh, just kind of calm down, whatever.
Like,
but
sorry.
I really think that's indicative not only of Burning Man, but of a lot of where we are in our culture and whatnot is being able to be in a place where you can bring God anywhere. And I believe that. I mean, I truly believe that. People like it's a godless place, and I disagree because I felt God there. I experienced like connection to divinity there at Burning Man, and I really believe that if we as a people can start really wrapping our heads around that, it strips away a lot of the ego. It strips away a lot of the, let me open up my book and prove to you that I'm right and you're wrong. Let me try and show you or shame you or shun you on your way or your lifestyle or your way of being or your ideology or your thought process. And when you take all that away and you put 75,000 people that have come from all over the world, and you can have all of these people very, very, very intuitively connect to something bigger in this location. That's to me, that's divine. To me, that's the hand of God.
One thing that I want to point out too, that resonated with me with like really being like God or like Jesus, right? Is I'm kind of taking a right turn here. But so when we were out there, my bike chain broke, and that's like that's like breaking your leg. I mean, it is no bueno.
Bike's the only way you get
the
around
bike
out
is your
there.
only transportation, and my bike chain broke. The little master link broke, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, ah. But this whole city that's created in the desert runs on no money. However, there are official bike shops, and there's official there's like bars, and then there was little shops, and there was like everybody puts out their products and services, and you can put it in this little booklet, right? And so, but they're doing it literally just as a service. And so we're riding around, and most of the little bike shops were closed for the day because they're out on the playa
And by bike shop,
riding
it's
their
basically
bike.
a tent that has
Right.
tools. Like a guy's got a table and tools, and you're like, that's the bike shop.
I've got my friend's bike, and we're riding around, and then I look over, and there's like all of these nicely organized bikes, and I'm like, they look legit.
Right.
So they weren't on the map as a bike shop.
It wasn't
but
even a bike shop. It was
we
just
pull up,
a camp.
Yeah, we pull up, and I was like, hey, like, Sean starts talking to him, and he's like, hey, we've got a broken chain. Do you guys happen to have one? Da, da, da. And they were trying to help us for a minute. Like, maybe we could rig it with wire. Well, come to find out, one of the guys actually had an extra chain, and all we needed was the little master link. So he's like, here you go. And I'm like, what? Like, this is the best thing ever. And so we get the master link, and I'm looking for something like to give him. And he's like, no, good. Just pay it. Just return the favor. Just pay it forward. And I'm thinking, well, no, you just like saved my whole Burning Man with this little tiny thing. But that's how this whole place is. And that's the expectation. Like you just help each other, but you're not obligated to.
Right.
Like we didn't really go in like that. We're like,
Right.
oh, however, Garrett has this dope bike that he's built this whole trailer on that has this velvet hot pink seat. And then it has a big sign that's like lights up and says the roast. And on the back of it, he's got basically a little espresso, very bougie espresso machine, beautiful coffees. He's got all the milks. He makes the coffee with a little cappuccino cup, and it's got the heart. I mean, it's like the most high-end coffee shop on wheels. And so he goes out and he rode it in the middle of the playa, and he's making coffee, and the line just lines up, and he's not doing it for money. He's doing it because this
is a wealthy guy.
This is his
who's
contribution.
A comedian who owns companies, who is literally taking a bike. It's a nice, cool electric bike, and pulling out a little coffee shop.
But the only trade is he's like, he will make you coffee, but part of the dance is he gets to roast you.
Hence the roast.
The why he's roasting your cup of coffee, because he's a comedian, and it becomes this super funny experience.
Yeah.
Like, and people are literally waiting in line for it, you know. And you can go and do this anywhere. Like people will say, oh, from 5 to 7, this is what's going on at our camp, and that's cool because bringing it back to Jesus and God and all that is like, you're literally showing up for your fellow man in a way that like, it's just like, of course, like you just support each other.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really, really cool. But there's also like no shame or no obligation that you have to like, you don't have to pool your money and like spread it out evenly. Like we're not.
It's not the law of consecration to the fullest. Where you know what I mean. But it's when you can watch a guy like my buddy Garrett, who is well-to-do, being in the middle of the desert, just serving strangers coffee, and not just like here's a cup of coffee. He's making them espressos. He's got a full-blown espresso machine. He's packing the grounds, like doing the deal, making you this fresh espresso. You know what I mean? When you really stop and think about that, take away all of the ego, take away the nice car and the big house and the fancy watches and all of this other stuff. And this is a guy who's got his own playa outfit on. You have no idea who this person is. And this is a very well-to-do man who's a father. He had his son out there. He had his 18-year-old son and his wife. Mm-hmm. And his friends, and his son's there, and his wife's there, and he's serving strangers like dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of cups of coffee, right?
Just because.
And the people that were like, oh yeah, here's the master lock to the chain, and this and that and the other, and all of these other things. Like when you take away, this is one of the highlights. One of the things I love about Burning Man is you take away all of the rules that we're living by and all of these thoughts and all of this ego and all of the ways that it should be, and you put 75,000 people in really like the moon, the desolate, dirty,
feels like
dusty
the moon would
place,
feel.
right? And be like, okay, let's all congregate for a week and see how this shit ends up. Like, we're going to have some music and some lights and some whatever. And you can go anywhere you want with it. You can be like, oh, here's the hippies, or here's the this, or here's the that, or these people are this, or these
here's the
people
ravers,
are that.
here's the,
yeah,
you know.
And it should be like this, or should be like that. What I continue to take away from it and love about it is it doesn't need to make sense. Like, it doesn't have to be this way or that way. It can be whatever you want it to be. You know what I mean? And you can really make it whatever you want. And same thing with life. You can make life whatever you want. If you want to be a stuck-up dick, you can be a dick. If you want to be a rich, pompous asshole, you can be a rich, pompous asshole. If you want to be a bum on the street, you can go be a bum on the street. You know, if you want to be a religious zealot screaming from the soapbox on the corner, you can be that too, right? I'm trying in my experience of life, and Burning Man is helping with this. And I'll say this, like, Burning Man is helping me strip away a lot of my ego and a lot of my judgments and a lot of my thought processes of how it should be.
It takes away a lot of the stereotypes because it's such a concentrated, diverse group of individuals that are really there for so many various reasons, but there seems to be a great amount of like cohesiveness to it.
We had no, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, we didn't have really any negative experience with anybody. We didn't have really any shit talkers, things, fights, aggressiveness, any of that with really anybody. And I attribute that to, and there's a lot of people out there that are drinking, that are partying, and you would expect if there's all these people that are out there partying that there would be these brawls and fights and everybody would be fucking, you know, drugged up and it would just be this mayhem. And it was nothing of the sort, right?
No.
And what I attribute that to is really understanding, like, if you think about who your friends are and you think about your environment here, let's call this the normal world outside of Burning Man, right? Like, if you think about all of the things happening in your world and your life and your friends and your circle and your job and your income and your house and all other stuff, like, you're creating all of this, you're building all of this. And when you can go to a place where we didn't bump into a lot of friction, we didn't bump into a lot of bullshit. Chain broke on a bike. We rode around for a little bit. We asked a bunch of people. Everybody that we talked to were super helpful. And then we fucking solved the problem, right? What would it look like if that became your normal reality? You know, call it normal life, which that really is normal life. It's just a different setting. It's a different thing.
Sure.
I'm really passionately pursuing that same reality where I understand that the reason that we enjoyed it is because we wanted to enjoy it. The reason that we enjoyed Burning Man and what we found is exactly what we wanted to find. Like, hear me, friends, when you hear like what I'm saying, like, we found what we wanted to find. We found excitement. We found the hummingbird. We found the temple. We found the
danced
experience.
Under light art projects.
We found this
in the middle
insane
of nowhere
art thing that, come to find out, the artist is this wildly well-known guy. He's done stuff for Burning Man. He literally builds these incredible light structures for promenades in LA.
And they cascade
in Vegas.
Designs on the ground in different colors, and they almost pulse in this beautiful symphony.
Just incredible. Sax has all the pictures on Instagram. Go check them out.
What's really beautiful too is it's kind of to echo what you said, is you can find whatever you want to find. And so when you're really concentrated on the empanada, just kidding, the espionage, Frank called it empanada, so I'm just sticking with it. It's called espionage, right? It's like you can go to, there's literally, you want to go to a concert / rave, it's right there.
Right.
You can go dance and have your glow sticks, that's there. You want to go roller skate, which I didn't get to go roller skate. There was a roller skating rink. You can just go grab some skates and roller skate. It's hilarious. Or in the further and further you moved away from the community, it becomes more and more and more still and quiet and peaceful. But what's beautiful is you get way out there and it doesn't end. There's still art projects way out there. And this is where we found this light one. And it was funny because right before we got up to it, I was like, this is getting boring. So quiet out here. And then I end up being at like, this is one of those checks of like, oh, joke's on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then of course it's like
Tell everybody that story.
my favorite moment, right? So we get out there and we see
night.
this.
That was the perfect night.
It was perfect.
The
temperature,
no wind. Yeah. It was just the perfect night.
Everyone said it. Like this couldn't have been it was the most perfect night, right? So we get out there and I'm just, first of all, I'm dressed up as a snow owl. Everyone thought I was an angel, which is fine because angels are great. But the whole theme was Animalia, so I dressed up as a snow owl. And I'm riding out there with my wings on and my outfit. And I'm just like, I'm going to run through this and I'm going to dance in this light thing. And it ended up just being so fun. Like, and it wasn't wild. And there was like hardly any people over there. But the more I danced in there, all of a sudden, all these other people started congregating because they're like, we saw you from way over there and we had to come see you and your wings. And it was just like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, this is how Burning Man is. Mm-hmm. It's like people are attracted to what they want, like what they see is beautiful. Right. And it doesn't matter what it is they're seeking, but it was kind of funny. There's all of a sudden there was quite a few people.
Yeah. People were literally like, it was just this amazing exhibit, and it wasn't even an exhibit. It's literally, there was like 6 lights coming out of the dirt in the middle of nothing. Mm-hmm. And we just stumbled upon it after Sax was done complaining, which was,
I only complained for like 2 seconds.
God smacking
under my
her,
breath.
saying,
totally.
"Oh, really? This is boring. I'm going to show you the coolest thing you've ever seen."
Eat your words, young lady.
People were congregating over, like, oh my gosh, taking pictures with Sax and these wings and the whole thing. She wore these wings, and if guys go check it out, she's got pictures on Instagram. She bought these wings and they were sitting in our house for like a month. And I'm like, what in the fuck are you going to do with these things? They looked super generic, super janky. They had like these little teeny,
they're made out of foam,
thin
packing
straps
foam.
Where I'm like, these things are going to blow away in like 4 seconds. And they were the star of the show, man. The wings were the star of the freaking show.
And that's the other thing is, like, everywhere I went wearing those wings, everybody, I love your wings so much. Oh my gosh, your wings are spectacular. People go out of their way to give you a compliment, to tell you, or like, oh my gosh, those are so magical. I love that you're wearing those. And it's like,
but what's really cool about that, if you think about it, and again, translate this, guys, to not just Burning Man, but like when you're yourself, when you're you, like when you're just unapologetically you radiate a light. Yeah. Like when you are you, when you just do what you want to do, say what you want to say, be who you want to be, and say, fuck everybody. I'm going to wear these
it's
giant
wings. It's not even
wings.
Fuck everybody. It's like, I'm not worried about
gonna be
everybody.
Me. Like you literally get into a place where it's just purely you. Yeah. Like, this is who you are. This is what you are. This is what you feel, and you radiate that in such a way of confidence and poise. You become magnetic. You truly become magnetic. Now, if you think about this from how you show up on social media, how you show up in your business, how you show up as a parent, how you show up as a man or a woman, just in our society and in our culture, we're all trying to fucking fit in and be these things and these people. And I want to look like him and do this. And this is what's good and bad and normal, whatever. Sax was wearing these giant, huge, like, I was like, dude, they're going to get caught in the spokes. You're going to eat shit.
I was like,
they were huge wings.
You don't even know.
But that was her. That was 100% unapologetically her, and it was fascinating to watch how many people came over and took pictures. She was sitting on a swing, just like literally swinging on the swing.
Because why wouldn't there be a swing set in the middle of nowhere?
There's a swing set in the middle of nowhere, and this Asian lady comes like sprinting over to her. Oh my gosh, I have to take a picture. Can I please take your picture? Can I please take your picture? And I was just, it was fun to observe that, because I realized how much, like, when you get to a place of real fucking freedom, when you truly become a quote unquote free man or a free woman, you magnetically bring in people. You magnetically, like, you put out into the universe and into the ethos such a good vibe. And that's like what I wanted to say about that experience, not just with the wings, but like when you become that free and you truly open yourself up to who you are, like, we found positivity because that's what we were there for.
Amen.
If your life is shit right now, like, let's talk about the polar opposite for 2 seconds. Like, let's take a nugget out of this. If you constantly find yourself hanging out with assholes, constantly surrounded by shitty people, constantly in a place where you're getting fucked over by work, fucked over by your boss, fucked over by the government, fucked over by everybody, if you're constantly finding yourself fat and drunk and miserable and whatever, The only common denominator there is you. Like, you attract that shit without question. Unapologetically, I will say all day long, like, that is 100% on you. Because what we find and what we see and what we're experiencing with our friends and our businesses and our life and where we are, like, I've never been in a more in more peace. I've never been more surrounded by like the purest, raddest, coolest people ever in my life. And I know, I don't question it. I don't go, well, it's lucky, man. Look at the year, the stars. I'm like, no, because I fucking built this. Because I've worked for this, because I've sharpened my mind. I've freed myself from ego and judgments, because I look for beauty. I look for good in people. I look for that. I radiate that. You radiate that. The wings and your freedom being on the playa and doing what you were doing. And just like, there were literally people, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. We were just riding our bike and there'd be 3 or 4 people that would like kind of come in like fighter jets, like coming in right next to us, riding alongside of us, and people looking at Saxony just saying like, your wings are spectacular. Oh my gosh, you guys are just something. And then they would just go and they would move away.
They just wanted to give you love.
Literally, you're just riding in the middle of the goddamn desert with no objective. We're not going on a bike. This isn't a bike path. They would just come from other places and just literally just pull up. We're sitting there dancing on the thing with the lights, and this dude shows up with a costume of mirrors, and he was covered head to toe in mirrors. I swear to God, he would just had a mirror. It was just little pieces of mirrors that he must have sewn or glued onto this outfit. He looked like a robot, and he just comes in, stops his bike, and like goes up to Sax and is like, "I absolutely love your outfit, unbelievable," and he just rides off. And it's just like, if you really stop and think about that, guys. Whether you're at Burning Man, not at Burning Man, whatever, right? Like, isn't that what we all want? Isn't that what we're after? Like, really, isn't that what we're all after? Isn't that why we pray and meditate and do ayahuasca and eat mushrooms and pray to Jesus and put money in the basket and do all of these things, is to find freedom and to truly build like a life where we are free from our egos and our bullshit and the rules, and when we can like literally be in a place of peace and of happiness and of joy, just fucking being us. Like, isn't that the game? Isn't that what all of us are trying to do right now? All of us, no matter who you are, where you are. That's what we're doing. Like, that's what we're after. That was a huge thing for me, man. Like, as a little note, we chopped that shit up. But like, that's like, to me, the biggest takeaway. And you tell me, everybody, what your takeaway is, babe. That was my biggest takeaway. One of them. I'm still downloading. I still have a bunch. But I just realized like how good it was to be there and how much fun I had with the people that I was not only there with, but the people that I had a chance to encounter and see and experience, just whether I talked to them or just passed by them. I realized like how incredible this existence really is, and how when I'm in this place of giving and experiencing and light, that's what I find. That's what's coming back to me. When I'm in this low vibrational place where I'm just being a greedy, selfish asshole, I find greed and selfishness and assholes. And when I'm in this place of scarcity and lack and fear, I find scarcity, lack, and fear. And that's what shows up. And it's like for you and I personally, like in our life and where we've been the last 3 months, 4 months, I feel like God has, without question, been pushing us to this place. And to me, for me, Burning Man was like it was kind of like the cherry on the top. It was like kind of this nudge from the Almighty going, look, man, I'm telling you, bro, like this is why you're experiencing this goodness. You're experiencing this freedom. You're experiencing these things because this is exactly how it's supposed to be. And you go out onto the playa and you're fucking looking like Mad Max and just I wanted to look like Mad Max, and people, you can laugh and mock, but it's like you wanted to wear those feathers. You wanted to wear that stuff. You wanted to be there. And it's like, you transmit that vibration of like bounty and goodness and abundance and love and freedom. And guess what happens? It's exactly where you are.
Yep.
It's exactly where you are.
Yeah. I don't know that I have a biggest takeaway because I have so many, but one of the things that kept coming to me was, I ordered this outfit, and my outfit was actually like a belly dancing outfit, right? And so it was just had all the gems and all the fancy things that were so fun. And then I had these wings, and I had, my goggles that I bedazzled, because goggles are, by the way, a necessity, because when the wind picks up, the sand is brutal. So they're a necessity, but you bedazzle them and then they just match your outfit. So so I'm out there and it's like, I'm thinking like all these people are like talking about this outfit, and there's a lot of amazing outfits like out there. I'm not the only one with an amazing outfit, but it's still kind of on the same spectrum as even being at home. It's like, I unapologetically dress like I'm still 6. Like when I was 6, I just put on all my sparkly belts, and I would put on my star glasses, and I've always kind of been, I wear whatever I want. I don't wear what, Target or the fashion industry or whatever is on sale at the mall tells me to wear. I just literally wear whatever calls to me. That's how I am. That's why I wear feather earrings every day. And so to me, it's like, I love the idea that if me living that way gives another woman permission to step a little bit further into a braver space of expanding her creativity, her light, her feminine, her getting back to her roots of her innocence or whatever that is, because this is the feedback I get from a lot of women. It's like, I love that. Like if that's something I get to contribute, why I'm just being me, like I love that, because I realize that there were people there that's like, they would have rather, I didn't want to dress like freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi today in my, my desert wrap. Like, I should have brought my damn sequins. Moop doesn't really find you. I mean, they probably do. Like, I'm not saying you should be a rebel, but I am a rebel. So I'm a rebel. But, it's like, I love to know that if me just being me inspires another woman to step into more of her greatness, that's dope. Like, because I don't care. Like, I don't care. And I guess it's kind of like my girlfriend Chanel, like she went really full send on her costumes. And I even messaged her today. I was like, you know what? I am so dang proud of you. And you looked smoking hot, and your husband was super stoked because she stepped into that, and maybe she would have without me already sending her my wings and my belly dancing outfits, but she went for it. I mean, she's 48 and she's got kids too. And like, it's not like a normal thing to go out there in your purple butterfly outfit, but she did. And she nailed it. She rocked it. And it's like, because I'm inspired by people when they live like that. Right. And so I just kept thinking like, I hope, or I don't hope that, but I'm grateful if another woman becomes more free, Yeah. And then the child stuff, like those two things just kept coming to me. I'm like, because so many women too ask me, they're like, your feminine energy is it's so contagious. It's so radiant. How do you do it? And I'm like, I play. I play. I get on a swing set. When I find a swing set, I ride my bicycle. I play, because that's a really beautiful way of tapping into that feminine energy. Another thing is I create, and it's like, and it's just dancing and being in nature, and like I found all of those things at Burning Man. And so to me, I was just like, I was completely on cloud 9, and it didn't take psychedelics to get me on cloud 9. Like I just was on cloud 9 because of, I went for it. I was so grateful. I'm like, my heart was just so full of like, I literally like was beaming, and it was exciting because I'm like, and then the next night's my hot pink and gold outfit, but then it rained.
Yeah.
And so I wore the hot pink and gold outfit inside the RV.
She legit did. I'm not joking.
I was like, I'm still dressing up for Burning Man.
You guys have probably heard all the horror stories. Nobody got Ebola. There was no bullshit.
Gosh.
Look, it rained.
Which also was so fun.
We'll finish with this. We can share that story. So they got more rain in 12 hours. Well, they got the same amount of rain in 12 hours that they do in 3 months. Mm-hmm. And so just put that in perspective. You're in the desert, which is a non-absorbent place. Like the playa doesn't absorb
like
water.
4 inches under, it was still powdery.
Yeah.
It doesn't absorb.
We got as much rain in 12 hours as it typically does in 3 months. Mm-hmm. It became an absolute mud bath. There was mud everywhere, right? And you've got 75,000 people some in front wheel drive cars, some in rear wheel drive cars, tons and tons and tons and tons of RVs, which are all rear wheel drive cars. They're not meant for four wheeling. They're meant for like literally parking in a camp spot and then driving home kind of a thing, that are now bogged down in hellacious mud. We do four wheeling. I love four wheeling. I've got a Bronco. I've got Razors. I go to Moab all the time. I would consider myself a fairly experienced four wheeler. I love off-roading, the whole thing. It was fucking gnarly.
It was crazy.
My Bronco would have handled it just fine. But dude, I saw four-wheel drive trucks that were like spinning all over the place trying to get traction. That's what happened. And so you had 75,000 people that were camping that got wet. And that's what it is. Like, it wasn't hell and
honestly,
thing.
Yeah.
And
nobody,
whatever.
I didn't see one person having a bad day.
Dude, I actually,
nobody.
It's funny because we were there. We left Saturday night, which we had planned to leave Saturday morning. We just left Saturday night. We had literally planned to leave at like 6 a.m. Saturday morning so we could get home for a concert. My boy Struggle Jennings was playing, and we couldn't get out. But we ended up leaving Saturday night, and we just drove straight out. I mean, now I am a four-wheeling expert, and I know how to drive, and I know how to romp through the mud.
Well,
which, with all due respect, I mean, I got it. I get an A+ for that.
You totally get an A+. But here's the thing, guys. This is where like critical thinking comes in, right? When they say, "Oh, you can't leave the property," blah blah blah. Well, no one can imprison you unless you're literally going to prison. Like, you can't keep people.
Right.
And remember, you're in the desert. You're in the middle of the desert.
Right.
There's not actually a gate. It's the desert. Find a different exit. Sorry. But I was just like, hello. And so, you know, and they're like, oh, it's closed, which I respect why they did that, because it would have been a literal shit show trying to get everybody, because the roads, once they're blocked, then we have a problem. That didn't happen.
They closed the gate from people coming in, and people were leaving.
Yeah.
People were
there was
leaving
no closing the
long,
gate, though people couldn't leave.
Anyways, it ended up being just total shit show. It was the headline news everywhere. Fox, CNN,
They
everybody
just-
was talking about it.
Yeah.
Ebola came up, and then everybody was dying, and there was zombie apocalypse, and then FEMA was showing up. I saw pictures of people that were saying that there were tanks rolling in and shit like that.
Oh,
people,
I would love to see a tank make it through the mud.
People sent me articles of pictures of tanks that were showing up, and I'm like, yo, I'm here. There's no fucking tanks, right? Anyways, moral of the story with that, you play the hand that you're dealt. And when Mother Nature shows up and shits all over you with a bunch of rain and turns it into mud, we were literally playing in the mud. And we couldn't ride our bikes, which is kind of a bummer. But Sax, I'm circling this all the way back to the fact that you legit put your outfit on and wore the purple outfit pretty much the entire day while we were in the RV and playing outside. I brought a
entire day. Velcro catch thing. We just played games instead.
We slopped around.
There was
in
the
the mud.
most beautiful double rainbow that came out. Amazing. And it was like, everybody was like, like that. Kauai gets double rainbows. Oh, but Burning Man got a double rainbow. And it was, honestly, you've got mostly hippies in the desert, in the mud. You think that they're worried? No. Let's just break this down.
I
just
promise
a little
you, the
bit.
energy at Burning Man was the exact opposite of what you read. There were a couple of people who were like, whatever, but that's how it is anywhere.
Oh, but what I was going with the critical thinking thing is, it's like, so you and Frank were like, okay, like, we're just gonna watch this, and you guys were great. Like, Sean, Ellen, and I are like, you guys handle it. We're just gonna keep playing ball and day drinking. We got nothing else to do. So you guys were very strategic about it. It's like, okay, you waited until it dried up as much as possible before the sunset, before the next day's rain. And honestly, like, everybody had like the free will to do this very same thing.
Right.
But it's based on a choice, right? You, me, like, we're sovereign beings. Like, we make decisions based on like the best choice for ourselves. We don't worry about someone to tell us what we need to do. We don't listen to, mandates and things that don't make any common sense. We make smart decisions for ourselves. So it's very similar to that.
Yeah.
And we went for it. Now, we drove through the desert. We didn't worry about finding an imaginary road and some cones and staying with it. We just went shortest distance to the road, go. And I made a video of the whole thing. We just drove across the desert.
Yeah.
Right.
And as we got to the road, there were all the sheriffs
and they're like,
Burning Man people are high-fiving and waving and
like, honestly, they're like, you made it out. One less person we have to worry about.
Yeah.
safe travels. They didn't care. Nobody cared.
Right.
Now, I'm
all
sure
of our friends ended up leaving, doing the same thing.
Everybody we knew ended up leaving. Now, they said, there was 10,000 people stranded. Well, I guarantee you those 10,000 people had no interest in leaving anyways.
Right.
And anybody who, there's always a mass exodus. It's always crazy leaving. So it's like the crazy leaving this time was the same crazy as it always
is.
It was
just muddy the day after.
Right. And so it's like, okay, cool. Like, but we just made a decision to leave. We didn't get any special privileges. We didn't take a helicopter. We didn't get, we drove our rented RV across the desert to the road, waved at the sheriffs, and went home.
Yep.
I mean, it could have taken a bad. No, I mean, it could have taken a bad angle and have us literally get stuck in mud, and then we'd be like, well. Shit. Well, now we're in the middle of literally in the middle of nowhere, because we were about 2.5 miles from the road.
2.1 miles on our GPS.
Somebody had our backs because you don't know.
Somebody had our backs, but I'm also a phenomenal driver.
But it was kind of funny because it was kind of a graveyard of there was a couple cars that left way too soon. They left in the heat of in the thick of the mud, literally, and they were not. They were stuck. So we did it. A lot of people we know did. And so
there's a lesson in that, just being calm in the storm, literally.
Yeah.
But
and embracing the suck.
Creating your plan, executing on your plan, knowing that we're going to do what we need to do and doing it. Yeah. And it works.
And Frank and Chanel, as they say to their kids, this is make lemonade. It's just one of those catchphrases of hey, it sucks, make lemonade. And so the whole joke of that day was lemonade, catch us now lemonade. We're playing it, and I was determined to have a slip and slide. It never happened though, but I saw other girls made to slip and slide out of the mud because
next year we'll bring a 4-wheeler, we'll put it in the trailer with us.
Yes.
And if the shit hits the fan, I'll bring a ski rope from the boat. And you guys can just lay on cardboard and I'll pull you around on the slip and slide and whip you around on the 4-wheeler. So the moral of the story, guys, is that we had a great time. It was very, very, very enlightening. It's very educational. It's very spiritual, and it's a really cool experience. Are there nuances to it? Are there lots of things to it? Is it liberal? Is it this? Is it that? It's what you make it, man. Mm-hmm. I just want to leave it at that. And put my 2 cents on it as a very conservative guy. Yes, it's owned and run by liberals. Yes, they had a year where they did the mask thing and da-da-da-da-da. And it's dude, I'm so over all of that.
So did
shit.
most of your favorite restaurants probably.
I'm over all of that. But not just the I'm just over that vibrational thinking. I'm just over the so low level thinking of, you wear Nikes, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, man, if you wore clothes based off of people's political presences or opinions, you'd be naked. If you drove a car based off of someone's political alignment or whether they give to the LGBTQ, ABC community, whatever, guys, become sovereign beings, man, for Christ's sake. Shine your light. Figure out who the fuck you really are. Enjoy the eclectic nature of this experience. Enjoy the fact that God put 8 billion people on this earth and a gajillion different ideologies and foods and places and and everything. Enjoy it. Learn to enjoy it. Learn to really enjoy who you are and what you are. Mm-hmm. And for me, Burning Man is a melting pot of this. Burning Man is a great opportunity for me to check my ego. For me to realize that I can dress up like Mad Max and own the fuck out of it and not have my little kid scared ego or whatever. It's a place where I can go and be in a sacred space with other people of other denominations and not have to whip out a book to prove somebody wrong or to take my idea and trump your idea. It's a place where we can find strangers who can help us fix bikes and we can help people handle their shit too, right? Mm-hmm. It's a really, really, really cool experience. I strongly, I don't want to say advise, but I'm definitely saying that if you've ever thought about it,
we're going back.
We're going back.
So there you go.
But I'm not going to do a camp and babysit a bunch of freaking dummies. However, I would love to connect with you on the playa. I would love to bump into you. I'd love to see you, kind of a thing. There's a high probability in the future that we are going to put together our own camp and invite our friends, because it is a really, really, really cool experience. And if you're someone who wants to explore more of the world, more of yourself, more of God, if you want to put yourself in a place where you can be the little kid, you can expand, you can truly I don't even want to say get uncomfortable, but just be in a place that's so unfamiliar and so odd, but yet so cool. Burning Man's a really cool place to do that. So without all the politics and whether he's going or she's going, or all the people that have been going said that they're not going because it's political, because it's commercial, blah, 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 blah. Fuck all that noise, dude. Make your own goddamn decision, right? And take what we're saying. Let me just finish with this, and you can wrap it up for us, honey. Just take it from what we're saying as a grain of salt, whatever you vibe and feel from this. We're two sovereign beings. We went. We heard what everybody said. We know who runs it. We know who operates it. We know that they probably don't vote the same way that we vote, and we're totally fine with that. The experience itself was magic. The experience itself was divine. The experience itself for us was what we made it. And we made it fun as shit. We made it really, really, really fun. And I really enjoyed it. And I had a really good time. And it taught me a lot. I left there a better person. I left there a more expanded man. I left there a better man. I left there a better husband. I left there a better father. I left there a more open, humbled individual. And to me, that's a good thing. Amen. God bless America.
I agree with you.
Wrap it up for us, baby.
No, the only thing I would add is you don't have, it's not like you have to leave your values and your morals at the door to expand. It's like we still have very strong morals and values when it comes to family, when it comes to battling evil with, human sex trafficking. Like, we are still very much like, those are passionate things for us that you'll never ever change. But you can expand into these other things of just like, just being a part of all the colors and all the smells and all the senses of everything that life has to offer, and you can still stay in alignment with what you value and what you like.
Because that's what you are.
Because that's what you are.
We brought our light to the playa.
Yes.
We brought our dignity. We brought our morals. We brought our way of being. We brought our thinking. And we don't vary on that. We are very stalwart in who we are, what we are, what we believe. We're not seduced by temptation. We're not seduced by fallacies and different things that float around in the ethos. Like, we are very, very, very stout in who we are, what we believe, and we bring that wherever we go. We bring our light wherever we go. We bring our energy wherever we go. We bring our love. We bring our compassion. We bring our fierceness. We bring our freaking savagery to the table no matter where we are, and we'll never change that. That is who we are, what we are. We bring that to church. We bring that to the office. We bring that to the restaurant. We bring that to Burning Man.
I just thought about this. Everybody thought that I was an angel. Like, most everybody thought I was an angel, right? And with this costume I was wearing, which is very interesting too, because the attraction of, say, if you look at what an angel symbolizes, right? The attraction of an angel, and so many people just loved that. It shows you like there is so much light there, and it's just there's duality like everywhere else, right? But people would just, it's like, they were captivated by this angel thing, even though I'm like, I'm not an angel, I'm a snow owl, was my joke. I just really love snow owls, okay? Apparently.
Sax's ego got in the way. She's like, damn it, get it right.
I was supposed to be a snow owl,
like
but I really like angels
I'm not
too.
A pirate. I'm a police officer.
So that was just one of the things too, is like, you can see it's, it's not like people are like, oh gosh. It was like, oh, I love that. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. There you go. I didn't find a Karen out there. I didn't see any.
No.
It's Karen free, guys. Karen free.
Well, I don't know.
I'm sure there was a Karen out there. We just didn't find her.
We didn't find him. All right. So we'll see you at Burning Man. I'm like, I already want to go back. It really is fun. Like, we should do our own Burning Man. That'd be kind of cool. But anyways, we loved it.
Yeah.
Go to our Instagram and check out our pictures. Sax posted lots of pictures.
We have so many great ones.
We have so many rad pictures, and
I already developed them to frame in our house.
Like, we have a ton, but we don't have that many. Like, we were very present.
Actually, you're right.
We took a bunch of pictures in certain moments, but we were super, super, super present. There's a lot of shit that we didn't capture.
That's you're right.
That we probably could have, but the shit that we did capture was fucking rad.
Yeah.
Super rad.
Well, you really are present. I mean, you're riding a bike. You can't be like, click, click, click. You're just like.
Yeah. It's cool.
You had to have a GoPro on top of your owl suit.
Anyways, hopefully we answered all the questions, at least that we've heard, and definitely encourage you guys to check it out. And not just Burning Man, but anything like this, anything that expands you, that pushes you, that opens you up, whether it be a mastermind, a retreat, whatever it is. Get out there, man. Go freaking live.
Yeah. Do things that.
Maybe we'll see you next year on the playa. Sax will probably have big ass wings again.
You know, it's funny. I already bought one of my outfits this morning.
What?
I told Sean, I was like, don't tell Sean, but I'll probably wrap myself out. See, it took like 4 hours.
We've been home fucking 2 days. We have, like, literally, they haven't even washed the mud off the RV. And you already bought another outfit.
This one is blue.
I'm sure it is.
Look for me in blue, everyone.
God bless America.
There you go.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.